Welcome to In the Brewhouse. I'm your host, Tony Yates, and this week we're going to be talking with none other than SJPorr. We had a great talk about his beginnings as a home brewer, a little bit about himself, and I think you guys are going to really enjoy this a lot. So without further ado, let's get straight to the interview. So everybody in the community wants to know who SJPorr really is. I mean, who's the guy behind the Homebrew Wednesday movement? Who's the guy behind the SJPorr challenge competition? And, you know, the voice of reason to some. So, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Like, I don't know, what do you do in order to support this homebrew hobby? A little bit about your personal life, and yeah, we'll go from there.
All right, so in order to support my homebrew habits, as we like to put it, I'm actually a plant manager. I run two production facilities that are located in York, Pennsylvania, and those facilities supply the entire East Coast of the U.S. with either cat litter or what is known as Aditrol. We won't get into details as to what that stuff is. But it is dirt. So I deal in dirt in order to be able to support my habit, is a good way of putting it.
Passion. Right?
Yeah, passion. It's to support my passion, absolutely.
So, in the beginning, like, what did you do before? I mean, how did you get into homebrewing? I mean, who sort of influenced that?
Sure. So it's kind of a funny story, to be honest. It started probably, close to 10, maybe a little better than 10 years ago, actually. And it didn't start with me. It actually started with my wife. She was working at a place where it was actually for the lumber yard, which is owned by Tom Wolfe, who, ironically enough, is going to be running for the governor of Pennsylvania here the next go-around. She was working for him and ran across some guys or whatever in the office that were homebrewers. So at the time, there was a little homebrew store that was located in Manchester. And we went out to that homebrew store. It was called Mr. Steve's. And which is ironic enough, kind of matches my name, as well, Mr. Steve. So we went out there and we looked around, saw all the cool stuff, and I'm a gadget guy, so I love to build shit. I love to play around with it. It's always making and tinkering, and stuff like that. So looking around, it was very intriguing. We bought a kit at that time, and it was your standard brewer's best buckets. Your standard kit would have the bottling bucket, the fermenting bucket, your wand, some hoses, a hydrometer, your standard deal. And we bought a red ale kit, okay, and then we brought it home.
And what year are we talking about here?
Oh my, that would have been back, we're 2014, probably around like 2008. Between 2005 and 2008 would be my guess. Because we brought that kit home and we set it in the washroom back here for about 2 years.
Okay.
And did nothing with it for like I know it was at least 2 years. So then we moved forward, like I said, about 2 years. And Laramie 22. He and I are great friends. We grew up together, high school, the whole 9 yards. He's actually, he would have been my best man at my wedding had he not been in the Navy at the time. But we went down to his place in Virginia for Beer Fest. And that was the very first Beer Fest that I was ever at. And it was really cool. He was brewing. So, in all honesty, I've got to blame this on Larry.
Okay. Larry's he's the culprit.
He is definitely the culprit. It is all his fault.
Well, then, in a way, I guess we should all be thanking Larry.
Yeah, right.
Lermo, 22.
Lermo 22. Go to his channel. Check it out.
So, did you ever end up brewing that Brewer's Best kit that stayed in the room for 2 years?
I actually did. We came home. I helped him do a brew, and the brew that he was doing at the time was a New Belgian Fat Tire clone.
Ah,
Is what he was doing at the time, was New Belgian Fat Tire clone. And I was so thoroughly intrigued by this amazing hobby of brewing beer that I could not wait to get home and dig that kit out of the closet, after 2 years. And my neighbor at the time, he actually came over. If I'm not mistaken, it was like the very next weekend. He came over and we brewed the very first batch of beer out in the garage. And
nice.
Once you do that first batch of beer, you're pretty much hooked. I mean, that's that's pretty much it.
That's fantastic. So, in all of these years, since you've been brewing, since then, back in 2008, so when you bought the kit, and then you actually started brewing in 2010, is that right? Or
Yeah, that's a pretty good, that would be a pretty good timeline, yeah. I don't know what the exact years are, but it'd be 2009, 2010, somewhere in that area.
okay. So, in the last 4 or 5 years, since you have been brewing, what are some of your worst experiences?
Oh, wow, that's a great question because I still have one, and I keep it around. And it was actually, I did a blonde ale that was called the Screaming Viking that I got the recipe off of, I want to say the Tasty Brew, that website, tastybrew.com, right? And I did that recipe. The beer turned out fantastic. Did a keg of it, and it was so good I did it again, and I bottled the next batch. That was not, that was a bad experience. I've actually kept 2 6-packs out of that, and every year I grab around this time, I'll grab one of those beers, and I'll open it up, and I'll drink it. Oh no, let me correct myself. I will taste it to remind me to clean, sanitize, sanitize.
Wow. That's a hell of a reminder to keep around, yeah.
It is, yeah. I had hopes that, it might actually clean itself up some, but yeah, that's not happening.
One of the few circumstances where time heals all wounds. Not in this case.
Mm-hmm. Not in this case, yeah. It still smells like bad old socks, or tastes like old socks.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about the polar opposite of that? So best experiences.
I've had a couple really good beers. Actually, I'll be honest with you. This one right here, I have been in the never-ending quest to brew a good IPA that I really like. This is a good example of that. This is my Marvel IPA. This is made with my homegrown hops that I built out here, that I grew out here, and this is probably one of the finer IPAs that I've made. There's a couple other beers that I've done that I think are turning out really well. It's actually a good list. I mean, I've been fortunate that most of the beers that I've been making have been turning out pretty well. As far as a best out of the whole deal, I really like this Marvel IPA, and
so is that your staple beer?
This is now. Yeah, this is now. Yep.
Is that the one you'll be entering into the SJPorr 2014 competition?
Nice try.
Why is it such a secret? I don't really understand that. I mean, I threw my ideas way out there, way early, trying to create some sort of deconfliction Now, I would think that other people would want to sort of do that as well. Because if other people are out there and they're going to say, I'm going to submit a coconut chocolate porter, then it would be like, well, okay, I'm not going to do that because somebody else is already doing that.
Right, right.
No, not buying that, huh?
No, not exactly.
Okay. Oh, my God. I tried.
Yeah, I know. Now the beer actually, I haven't made up my mind yet as to what direction I'm going to go yet. I'm thinking about maybe. I mean, there's a couple. My wife made a beautiful Belgian. That she had set on cranberry and orange and cranberry chutney, and it sat on that for about 2 weeks. Kegged it up. It's sitting back here right now, and it's a beautiful beer. But the recipe that she came up with as just a straight Belgian, the way it is, without adding anything to it, was so good, so pleasant. That one's a tough one, but I'd have to get her blessing. I don't think I'm going to have that blessing, you know. She's like, that's my recipe, so, I might have to steer away from that one.
This is not a recipe that she just pulled out of, like, classic styles or anything like that.
No, I gave her, she had asked for me to set up my beersmith, because I use beersmith, and I set her up, and what I did was I put the style, down in the bottom, so that she could go through her ingredients and, move the bar back and forth until it hit where, she was within style and everything, and she built this recipe from scratch, actually. It's wonderful. Are you familiar with Victory's Golden Monkey? Have you ever had that? It's a Pennsylvania brewery.
No, I don't get that over here.
It's if anybody watches this or whatever, they'll the Golden Monkey is one of their finer beers or whatever, and it's right along the lines of that. It's a really nice Belgian by itself.
Yeah. So I think kind of the burning question that people are trying to wonder is. Where did Homebrew Wednesdays come from? I mean, what were you doing when that came in your mind?
Well, there's a couple people that know this. Some of them, like Ben and a couple other guys that have been around for a while. I actually tried this probably 6 months to a year prior to it actually taking off. And I had done I did a video one time, and it just didn't it didn't take for whatever reason. It's like everything. Everything has its time. Everything, certain things take off right, or whatever. But when I tried it the second time, everybody jumped on, and I'm trying to think like one of the you actually jumped on pretty quick. It's like I did the Homebrew Wednesday video, and if I'm not mistaken, you did one like almost immediately, like the following week, and then Craig Tube came on. Craig did it, and a couple of the other guys did it, and then boom, it just took off from there. And never in a million years would I have ever thought that if you go in, you do a YouTube search for Homebrew Wednesday, that you'll get 10, 15, 20 pages of videos. Yeah. That's astonishing to me.
And it's continuing to grow, which is quite the phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
So,
absolutely.
The perpetual motion that Homebrew Wednesdays has sort of, the momentum that it's gained is phenomenal. And, a lot of people, obviously say thanks to SJPorr, and, thank you very much, because it does give us something to look forward to. But then the look forward to aspect of it, I've heard you say this on a couple of occasions where it's titled Homebrew Wednesday, but it doesn't necessarily have to be on a Wednesday. Isn't that
right? Exactly, yeah. Well, a lot of people have, they've got tight schedules at home, they might not get home in time, to be able to do a video or whatever, or they're brewing on a weekend and they want to share what they're brewing, their technique. Maybe they ran across something that they're trying new, or whatever. I did a homebrew Wednesday. Oh wow, it was probably 2 years ago because homebrew Wednesday now I believe is 3 years. Oh yeah, it's definitely 3 years old. So it was almost 2 years ago. I did a homebrew Wednesday. It was on a weekend where we did a decoction mash, which was fascinating to me. I thought that was phenomenal. So yeah, I mean it's when you start to bring the whole world into it. One of the great things is I can wake up. Well, they start Tuesday night for me, and I start to look at them Tuesday evening, wake up Wednesday morning, and boom, there they are. They're already out there, and it just goes the whole way around the globe, which is wow. How cool is that, right?
That's very cool. Yeah, all the New Zealanders are popping off first, and then comes Australia, and then those of us in Europe, and then over to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm always kind of I don't know how I feel about it, but it's just about when I think and I see people who are doing Homebrew Wednesdays, and they're like they apologize for doing it on a Thursday or a Friday, and I'm like, but there's nothing wrong with that. You're not doing anything wrong. You shouldn't be apologizing.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, it is when when you get the opportunity to do it. It's who was it? Glitch before he became pro. He still does them every once in a while. Glitch 777. He'll do some homebrew Wednesday videos, and typically he's doing them on a Saturday. He'll upload them on a Saturday. It's just his free day. It's more about the name than it is about the day. If you put in Homebrew Wednesday, well, you're going to be able to find it. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the day, but it's the name. So everybody's thinking about it on a Wednesday. It's hump day after all. You're a day closer to the weekend, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Get you through the week.
Absolutely, right.
So, talking about brewing, I mean, what sort of setup do you have? What core equipment do you have? You started off with, the very basic bare bones, and sort of how have you built that up over the years?
So of course, I start off like most all homebrewers. They start off well. My actual first setup, and I still use it to this day, is a turkey fryer. Right? Most every hillbilly out there has got a turkey fryer in a garage with a propane tank. So I grabbed my turkey fryer, and it actually did fry a couple turkeys before I turned it into a brew kettle. But since it's been a brew kettle, it's been strictly a brew kettle. So we're good there. Yeah, it's all about sustainability, right? So my first one, was straight up just a brew kettle, just a turkey fryer. And then when I got into the all grain, again, I like to build stuff. I'm a tinkerer. I like to mess around. So I researched and researched and researched on YouTube, watching video after video after video on mash tuns. How do you build a mash? What is this all grain? What's it all about? And I watched video. I watched Bobby from New Jersey. I watched Dorf Six. No, he doesn't. He does extract, but I watched a lot of his videos, through the years. I'm trying to think of some of the other all grain guys that were starting off back then. There was a guy who's doing RC planes right now, and I can't think of what his name is.
Jake CPU.
But he was. Oh yeah, and Jake, absolutely, yeah, Jake CPU. Not watching his stuff. And I finally got the nerve up, and all right, I'm going to build a mash tun. So I went out and bought a $10 cooler and built a mash tun. So now I've got a $10 cooler mash tun. That's the first step into all grain. You're jumping in, and it moved from that to where now I'm a full blown. I got the 3 keg, their half barrel setups, mash tun, hot water lauter tun, brew kettle. I have the pumps and everything, but I don't have them all set up. It's in progress, being built. I'm still kind of back and forth on whether I want to go electric or stay propane. So I'm kind of in that in between stage right now. But right now I'm all propane.
Which leads me into a nice segue. So where do you expect this setup to be in 5 years or so?
Oh, well, another great question, especially with the way things are going on in in the real world there. I expect in 5 years to have me a full out setup. I'm really going to look at the, you know, the. I love homebrew. I love everything about homebrew. Um, but I like brewing beer. It's what I love to do. So I'm looking about possibly going pro here in a couple years. Got some people that are interested in in helping out to make that happen. So you never know. You might see Little Face Brewing out there on the shelves one day.
Well, okay. Um, I want to turn that around a little bit because it's such an interesting topic. People as homebrewers have this fantasy, a utopia about becoming production brewers. That's their day job. And recently, I've been listening to a lot of the Brew Strong Network. The guys over there, Jamil, John Palmer, the other guys, great guys up on the Brewing Network. And the latest 2 episodes, they're talking about if you want to get hired at a brewery, these are the sort of things you want to know. How do I get a job at a brewery? And through those discussions, you kind of get the idea that they really truly are more cleaners than they are brewers. And when they say that they really appreciate what we as homebrewers can do and wish that they could do that on a weekly basis, that would be utopia for them. So what do you think about that?
Oh wow, I think that's 100%. I think that's exactly right, and I can see why they would think that. Because now you're taking. I mean, the fear that everybody has really is to the fear and the utopia. Okay, that everybody has is you want to do what you love to do, right? That's what everybody wants to do. Well, we love to brew beer, but you don't want it to turn it into work, right? You want to be able to get paid and be happy. So the cleaners, I can see where that comes up with that, which is why, I look at things a little bit on a different side of things. When I say I love homebrew, I truly love homebrew. I like everything about it. I love the dirtiness of it. You know what I mean? You grab a beer and I was down at Pat Fan's house here a couple weeks ago, and he had a pale ale on tap, wonderful beer, 2.9%. Just couldn't get over this beer. How much body and flavor and hops and everything. And then he said it was 2.9, and I looked at him like he was from Mars. Are you kidding me? 2.9? There's no way. And that beer sticks in my head to this day because I just thought it was phenomenal, and it was a dirty beer. And you'll know what I mean by that. I mean, it was cloudy, the whole 9 yards. It was kind of a dirty beer, but that's what I love about homebrew. He was able to do that. So if I'm going to look at it on the side of going pro, and the only reason why we're calling it pro is because I'd like to get paid for what I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got to pay the bills. But if you can get paid, for making quote unquote homebrew, and it's little, I'm looking at little. I'm not talking about Dogfish Head, and stuff like that. Little tiny brewery. I've been to a bunch of them around here, and I think the small guys stay more to homebrew than your bigger guys do.
They have more freedom.
Absolutely, they're not making anybody but themselves. You make yourself a beer that you're proud of, that you like, right?
That's the dream. Yes. The SJPorr challenge. If you go back in time of when the BrewTubers community had started to come up with challenges, I remember Hokey Homebrew Challenge. I was part of it. I wasn't even part of the community back then, but I remember watching the videos. I was just getting into Homebrew Wednesdays back then, and then you had the Hokey Homebrew experiment, you had the Hop experiment, and others. Can you tell us, where did all that start? Do you remember?
Yeah, actually, the challenges started. We are on challenge number. It's either 4 or 5 right now. The original challenge was the SJPorr experiment, which was it wasn't that many years ago because we actually hit a time where we did a couple challenges back to back. We did 2 challenges in 1 year time frame, and that was a task. I mean, that was a lot of work. So it started off with, and people had to forgive me. I don't want to miss anybody, but I know it was myself. It was Dorf 68. It was Stompy Joe Jr. It was Jameson, and it was, I can't remember who the 5th guy was. I think it was Hokey. Yeah, it was Hokey Homebrew. So it started out with those 5 guys. At the time, Fear of the Victor was supposed to get into it. We were good friends. He's not in the homebrew. He's not on YouTube and stuff yet. There's, whatever. That's another story. But we're good friends. We've kept a good relationship over the years. And we talked about it one night. He was like, hey, it'd be kind of cool, to get these because the homebrew the brewing videos just really started to come along. At that time, I was like, it would be cool if we get a couple people of these homebrewers together and to do a challenge amongst themselves. One of the reasons is because I typically don't do well in competitions. For my beers. Reason being is I don't brew to style. I've never been able to brew to style. I have no desire really to brew to style. And when you go into your major competitions, that's what they judge everything on. It has to be a porter, and everything to a T to a porter. And I can't do that. I've never been able to do that. I entered in, and I never do well in them. So I was like, well, shoot, we'll start our own. Let people, be creative, and whatnot. And that's really how it started out. So it went from the first one right into the Hokey Homebrew, where we did 2 Hokey Homebrews back to back. We did the yeast challenge, I believe, and the hop one. And then we went back into last year's challenge, which is where it got as big as it is to where we are now. To where we're actually, last year it was funny because we went worldwide without really setting out to do that. It was because of guys like you and Paul, and Harry Brew, and guys like that were like, well, we want to be part of this too, and you did. You guys, you took a hold of it and you did it. And in all honesty, it's you guys that made that happen. So now this year, we got together, with a little bit of nudging from, Mr. Clements and Paul, to let's actually do this on purpose, and that's how we came into where we are today.
Now you can say that, but it's really on your shoulders, man. But I mean, could you ever imagine just how out of control? It's not out of control, but how big in the scope that this thing has taken on.
It humbles me every day when I think about it. Last year was very humbling. When we went as big as we did, and then everybody did. The UK did their thing, and New Zealand did their thing, and then we were like, we actually were able to do a bit of a swap. And they, the countries got to taste each other's beer. That was awesome. Oh my God, I couldn't believe how cool that was. Never did I ever think it was. It's funny because it's one of those deals where we never set out for it to be this way, but it's turning out this way. So if we got that interest, why not build on it, right?
Yeah, take it to the next level, right?
Absolutely.
No, I think it's phenomenal. I know that I'm really looking forward to being a part of it. Now, I checked earlier today, and there was 85 people who had registered for this challenge.
Oh my God!
And you started off with 5. Just
I know.
4 or 5 years ago.
That's
good growth.
Amazing. That is good growth. I'm not sure that there's many companies out there that can actually spout that kind of growth off, in less than a year, because we really, well, no, it'd be June will be about a full year to when we started shipping last year. So, this year we're actually kind of being, I mean, like I said, we're being deliberate, with what we're doing, and the work behind the scenes is, as you can well imagine, you've seen some of it. It's astronomical. There's guys that we all are taking a couple hours out of our days each day of the week, to do little bits and pieces, and some are taking more time than that, to make this thing happen.
Hey, weekends, yeah. Paul.
Exactly, exactly. You hit the nail on the head right there. He's an amazing person, absolutely amazing.
Yep. But yeah, so these numbers, these people, everybody that's participating in this competition, I look at it and it's like it's a community sort of effort, and the whole community was, segregated before Homebrew Wednesdays took off. So realistically, we do need to say thank you, Stephen, for getting everybody on board, and really appreciate that. And it's just phenomenal to be a part of the phenomenon.
Oh, shucks, you're making me blush now. Stop.
All right.
Now, I mean, really, when you get down to it, I just happened to come along at the right time. It's one of those deals. The right time, or right time, right place. People wanted something to grab a hold of. I just happened to be able to put something out there to allow them to grab a hold of it, and it's been a ride ever since, and I'm loving every minute of it.
I think that's a very accurate conclusion. Is that people really just wanted something like that to hold on to, because it's a community, and people love to be within communities and help communities grow. I mean, I know as in my day job, I get to help people out, and nothing makes me as a human being feel better about myself than being able to help other people out. And I think that's what a lot of this community, the driving force behind this community, really is. So, you started all that and brought a lot of people together, and everybody sort of had something to hook into and go along for the ride. So where do you foresee this going into the future? If you could predict, where might Homebrew Wednesdays, SJPorr Challenge, and the homebrewing community go in the future?
Wow, really, the sky's the limit, and I've been finding that out as we go into this particular challenge. We knew, when Paul and Kevin and I sat down and we discussed this, and we had some conversations, the three of us, for quite some time before we were like, yeah, let's make this happen. We were like, this could be pretty big, and we had some numbers in mind, of what it could turn into when we started off. We've already surpassed those numbers, so the sky's the limit. I mean, the greatest thing I think that could happen would be, get support from, like Brew Your Own magazine, and stuff like that, where they'll do stories on the guys that are part of this. I mean, after all, it's not a style challenge. It's not. This is one that every brewer out there can actually get into and stack his beer up against the next guy from another country, from all over the world, and there's not another challenge, there's not another competition out there like that. It allows the brewer to be a brewer. It allows the brewer to be a chef. It allows the brewer to be a cook. It allows a brewer to be himself or herself, and put themselves into the beer. There's not another competition out there like that. It would be cool, to be able to put this stuff up. Now, you never know. Maybe some big time breweries will catch on. It'll be like, the grand prize would be we could brew, your recipe, for a big brewer or something like that. It's really that broad. The sky is the limit.
I was pitching the idea at my local home brew shop, and it came down to who was actually going to be doing the judging of these beers, because it's a little bit unorthodox. And the owner of the home brew shop, he is like, you know, he was kind of snarky about it. He was like, well, then who gets to judge, you know, the beers if it's not BJCP sort of judged? I'm like, well, everybody in the community is going to be able to judge each other's beer locally within that region before it gets forwarded on the top 3 winners to the international competition, where it's the winners of each country who then get to choose who the overall winner is. And then he was like, you know, sort of blown away by that. It's like, oh, wow, that is quite unique. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
all
that's one of the best parts of it. You know what I mean? I mean, the people that are participating in the challenge are the ones that are going to deem the very first worldwide homebrew champion. How cool is that?
That is super cool. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add here towards the end?
I believe I am good because I'm about hoarse. You've made me speak until I can't speak no more. Didn't think that was possible, did you? Got to enjoy the fruits of your labor, baby, and brew beer. Brew wonderful beer.
Well, I think I can say on behalf of all of the people in the community, you know, thank you very much for your contributions to this effort. It's just been a phenomenal initiative. It's taken off, unlike even yourself have admitted that nobody could have even have fathomed. And I know that I'm very happy and proud to be a part of this community, and everybody I talk to is, and you know, realistically, we really do owe that to you. So we really appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be able to, you know, to sit down and go through all this, because it's like I said, it was right time, right place. You know, if you didn't have the interest from everybody else out there, it would have never happened. So this is for all of us.
There you go, guys. I hope you liked this week's interview. Don't forget, join me next week when we'll have another brew tuber to interbrew. See you then. Take care, guys.